Good morning, everyone. The Redevelopment Agency meeting of June 20th, 2012 is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2 and are closed captioned for hearing impaired viewers. Please note some customers of Cox Communication who do not have cable box may view this meeting on digital channel 89.5. The Redevelopment Agency meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, may be viewed on the city's website at www.kclv.tv. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV Channel 2 and the web the Wednesday of the meeting at 8 p.m. and also on Friday at 4 a.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 7 a.m., and the following Monday at 1 p.m. This building is protected by state-of-the-art fire detection and sprinkler system. If alarms should activate during today's meeting, please evacuate using the exits at the back of the chambers out to the mezzanine. Proceed out the double doors to the terrace and down the back staircase. Once outside, assemble on the northeast corner of the street from City Hall at Lewis and First. Employees wearing safety vests or city marshals will inform you when it's safe to re-enter the building. For public comment related to items on the agenda, citizen participation, and public hearing items, we have available a speaker card which you may complete and submit to the city clerk. Cards are also available online in the clerk's office or at the rear of the chambers. If you do not submit a card, it does not prevent you from speaking under public comment, citizen participation, or specified public hearing items. If anyone is present today who has need for hearing impaired equipment, please see our city clerk up here at the front of the chambers. If you parked in the parking garage across the street and did not receive a validation ticket as you entered chambers, please exit to your right and then see the security personnel at the entrance. We will move on to item 3. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. All comments made will be cross-referenced to those specific items. If anyone submitted a speaker card or who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. We will set the time at 1 minute. Okay, having no one appear, thank you. We will move on to item number 4. For possible action to approve the final minutes referenced of the regular Redevelopment Agency meeting of June 6, 2012, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Please vote on the motion and please post. Thank you. Motion carries. We will move on now to item number 5. Good morning. RAA 2012, discussion for possible action regarding a resolution finding the project proposed by the Commercial Visual Improvement Program, CVIP, agreement between the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, RDA, and 1213 South Las Vegas Boulevard, LLC, owner and CVIP participant located at 1213 South Las Vegas Boulevard, to be in compliance with and in furtherance of the goals and objectives of the redevelopment plan, and authorizing the execution of the CVIP agreement by the RDA not to exceed $25,000. RDA Special Revenue Fund. This is in Ward 3, Councilman Coffin. This is an item related to Council Item 79R55-2012. Mr. Arndt, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, members of Council. Bill Arndt, Director, Economic and Urban Development. I'm pleased to present a new VIP program applicant for a visual improvement project on Las Vegas Boulevard, south of Charleston, at a motel doing business as Super 8. With me this morning is Zohar Robin, representing the property owner and the applicant. The property owner at the location of 1213 South Las Vegas Boulevard is looking to do some improvements. The current owner bought the property in 2010. The property was in poor condition and vacant, and they've done extensive renovation at a cost of $1.5 million. They're doing some additional renovation associated with new neon signage and some landscaping in the cost of $70,000. And that makes the applicant eligible for a matching grant through our VIP program of $25,000. The project is anticipated to create 16 full-time jobs and 5 contract or construction jobs. On the overhead, you see some before photos and then some after renderings of what the property owner is looking to do with the property. And with that, I'd like to again introduce Mr. Robin, representing the property owner, who can explain what they're doing with the property. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have of me or of the owner. Mr. Robin?
Zohar Robin, 100 Urbana, Henderson, Nevada. As you see in the picture, about 2010 and 2010, we bought this vacant property, and we worked very hard and basically upgrade every room and pushing to continue to redevelop that area. I really like to take also this opportunity on behalf of Mr. Gordetsky to thank the city of Las Vegas and everybody from Council Coffin and the mayor and everybody else, all the rest of the councilmen, anybody in the city really help us from business license, planning, all over, anywhere we go, just help. And we're going to continue to redevelop this area. We have plans for pool. We put a beautiful sign. We're trying to make Christmas every night. And we're just going to keep doing our best to help and redevelop this area from Charleston to Sahara.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any questions, comments from council before we turn this over to Councilman Coffin? Councilwoman?
I just wanted to say that last summer I took a vacation with an old college friend, and it happened we ended up at several Super 8s along our trip, and they were absolutely excellent as far as courtesy and cleanliness, and it's very nice to have this here in our city with the money and the attention you're going to be paying to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I would say that we are thrilled, and it's grand to have someone who cares about our community and wants to upgrade it as well. So we wish you the best, assuming this might pass.
Thank you very much.
Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. The property is really improved in its appearance, even without the addition of VIP funds. The owners, they are the new owners, and there's a little history involved with this property, but basically what they've done is they've cleaned up neighboring properties, then they've purchased some neighboring properties, even before they bought them, and they just installed some new sidewalks along the street they didn't have to install because they had not asked for permission to do anything at that particular corner. So they've been really good citizens in this neighborhood, which is right next to the historic John S. Park neighborhood. This property, some of you would recognize, has been there over, well, certainly over 50 years, originally built by the Petersons as a great big hotel motel. Then it became Chris Karamanas's property and became Thunderbird Hotel. It became, well, I'm sure it had a couple ownerships in between, became Continental Suites, now branded as Super 8. They need signage there because these properties, this property, is a part of a package of 2 or 3 that were split from that old property. That's why it becomes very important. They can't be seen from the boulevard. So that Super 8 sign couldn't be seen anyway unless we do some additional work here at the council, which we'll be bringing forward to you. But in the meantime, it's a good property, and I think that they'll do well for us and represent us on the Las Vegas Boulevard.
Is there a restaurant planned inside or a coffee shop, or just as the signage indicates, the convenience store?
We're going to start with a small convenience store and progress from there to hopefully in the property next to us that we just purchased, we're going to reopen maybe a combination of, we are in negotiation right now with Subway on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and the new property that we have there, and maybe more into the restaurant side. Maybe we get a liquor license. Hopefully we can open a bar. Hopefully we can get a tavern license in this area. That's really going to help us to really bring up a lot of people to this area. It's important to us as we have the art district that we have to compete with. So hopefully I'm just bringing to a point that hopefully one day we'll be able to talk about it, to be able to progress to a full restaurant, tavern license, maybe small event, some jazz, I don't know, anything we can.
Councilman.
If you're ready for a motion, Your Honor, I will move to approve this item. It would be RA-8, 2012. That is it. Move to approve.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Please vote. And please post. Okay. Congratulations, and
Thank you
we're
very
just
much.
delighted. Good luck to you. Thank you. On to item number 6, RA-9-2012, discussion for possible action regarding a resolution to augment the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, RDA, fiscal year 2012 general fund in the amount of $6 million. Ms. Falder.
Good morning, Candace Falder, Finance Director. This item is a resolution to augment the RDA General Fund, Governmental Accounting Standards Board Pronouncement 54 that was issued a couple of years ago, was the new fund balance, and it looked at the way we were reporting several of our funds. As our auditors came in and reviewed the criteria, in the redevelopment agency, they used to have 3 funds. They had a general fund, a special revenue fund, and a debt service. The special revenue fund did not meet the strict criteria of separate reporting. So what this item does is it allows us to consolidate the redevelopment agency special revenue fund into the redevelopment agency general fund. We're just moving the activity that used to be reported as a special revenue fund in with the general fund. To do that, we have to augment, because we're bringing what was budgeted in a special revenue fund into that general fund. So we're just going to be closing out, or we have closed out the special revenue fund. Everything will be reported in the general fund. It does not increase the total expenditures for the redevelopment agency. It's a housekeeping issue to consolidate the funds.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Mayor?
Yes, excuse me, comments, questions? Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Barlow.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Candace, for clarification, just want to make sure that the transition of the special revenue fund going into the general fund, and you mentioned that you're closing out the special revenue fund, does that mean it absolutely goes away, or we still will operate it in another capacity?
The fund itself goes away. The activities that used to be reported under that fund
Under the
will
special revenue fund.
will still be performed. They will be performed and
Under the
reported
general
under the
fund.
general fund.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, anyone else comment, question? Is there,
Motion to approve, Mayor.
thank you very much. This motion, please vote. And please post. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Falder. We will now move on to item number 7. Report for possible action regarding accepting the report and recommendation from the City of Las Vegas Planning Commission for the redevelopment plan for the redevelopment area 2 within Ward 1, and that is in Councilwoman Tarkanian's ward. Mr. Arndt, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bill Ernst, Director, Economic and Urban Development. This item continues to set in motion the introduction and inclusion of a new project area, which we're calling Redevelopment Project Area Number 2. The city's Planning Commission last Tuesday on June 12th voted to approve a plan, which is before you today, and approve a report. Today's item is required by NRS 279.570. It requires that within 30 days after a redevelopment plan is submitted to the Planning Commission for consideration, that the Planning Commission make and file a report and recommendation with the agency. The Planning Commission did so by its action on June 12th, and in that action it found that the redevelopment plan that was submitted met the requirements NRS 279, including conditions such as the amount of open space, limitations on the type, size, height, number and proposed use of buildings, number of dwelling units, property to be devoted for a public purpose, other conditions, and the method of financing for the plan, and voted to approve. One of the things that has happened during the process is staff has studied the area of evaluation which you as the legislative body set out for us to study. And between the start of the process and where we're at today, there are some areas that we did engage a consultant to do a third-party review to see if the area is most suited for redevelopment, meets the requirements under the state law for blight, and therefore should be included in the project area. This was the original evaluation area, which you see on the overhead, which shows the area considered for consideration, including 3 commercial corridors, Decatur, Sahara, and Charleston. Since then, we looked at areas with that third-party review, and the third-party review consultant had recommended the potential elimination of 4 areas, one along Sahara between Rainbow and Decatur, second, a residential neighborhood off of Charleston and Decatur, third, a residential neighborhood off of Sahara just west of Valley View, and then finally the residential neighborhood just south of Palace Station. Staff reviewed the third-party consultant's report, and we agreed with most but not all of the recommendations. We did go back and did do some further study and analysis of the neighborhoods south of Palace Station. And because of the large amount of property that's been bought by a commercial developer and is proposing to be developed for mixed use over a period of time, we thought that that area certainly warranted itself for inclusion. So the final map that we're looking at is shown here on the overhead, again, which still includes all of those 3 commercial corridors. We have eliminated some area that was studied for evaluation, and that's been being considered for this final report. You're not acting on approving the final report today or the plan. What you are doing is accepting the report from Planning Commission that we have followed NRS and that we're meeting the guidelines established by NRS. What this does set in motion is some additional meetings where the next steps are the introduction of a new bill and ordinance to the City Council on July 28th, and then a special City Council meeting on July 25th, which will be a public hearing. That public hearing is being advertised in the paper as well. Notices are being sent to every affected property owner represented in the map that is on the overhead. So every property owner will be getting a notice that that public hearing is taking place. And the public hearing, the purpose of that is to have a hearing on the details of the report and the plan. So again, this is a procedural step. You're not voting or acting on the final plan today. You're simply accepting the report from the Planning Commission. I did want to highlight that one change where we have looked at amending the area. It's still a considerable amount of acreage, and we think it's going to have a really big and positive impact on the commercial neighborhoods affected in these communities. So with that, I recommend approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
What was the date scheduled for the final report to the council?
There will be a public hearing on July 25th, and then parallel to that process, there's a bill that goes through the ordinance process, and that will be introduced on July 18th, scheduled to be published on August 2nd, and then final adoption of that ordinance is anticipated to take place on August 15th. So we have to follow the normal city's bill and ordinance process. But the next big step is that public hearing, and that's where certainly we invite all of the public out to attend the meeting. We have had a lot of public meetings out in these neighborhoods. We're probably going to engage these neighborhoods once more before July 25th to make sure they're aware of it, just to make sure that they get the notice in the mailbox and they don't read it. It has been a long, arduous process. We want to make sure if anyone does have any questions about the area that they have an opportunity to ask those questions at the public hearing.
And do you have a location in Ward 1 that has been selected for this open meeting?
We do not, but we're going to certainly work with Councilwoman Tarkanian to make sure it's the right location.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple of questions, if I might. I was watching this, and can you tell me again, Bill, comparing this with what they suggested, what was the final thing that we accepted from them on their recommendations of what to drop?
So the areas, if I'll go back to the prior slide, the areas cross-hatched in red, there were 4 areas that the consultant had recommended for possible elimination. We eliminated the stretch on Sahara from Rainbow to Decatur, so we removed that.
Right.
We removed the residential neighborhood at Decatur and Charleston at Essex Circle. We removed the residential neighborhood on Charleston between Arville and Valley View. And then we did not remove the residential neighborhood, I believe it's Richfield, the one that's just south of Palace Station. We left that in there because of its proximity to I-15, its adjacency to commercial, and the property owner's intent over time to develop it as mixed use. I would point out, and I've mentioned this in prior meetings, that we are not proposing to change the land use for that residential area. So any existing residents, your property rights aren't affected whatsoever. The property owner would have to come forward with a general plan amendment request to change that from residential to a different use. So it doesn't impact any of the residents directly.
I thought that we were also going to keep, I thought they made 4 recommendations and that we kept 2 and then didn't keep 2. And the other one I was concerned about was that residential area along Charleston and Decatur, because that is in bad shape, really bad shape. And remember, we talked about the condition of those homes and everything.
Yeah.
My understanding at the time was we were going to keep that in there. In other words, the consultant made 4 recommendations. We were going to take 2, and really now we only took 1.
One of the things you're right, we did have some concerns over that neighborhood, so we met with our legal staff, and there's, I think, a legal solution and then a practical policy one. The legal one is the attorney's office has opined that we can spend money and property immediately adjacent to the area if there's a nexus. But I think more importantly, one of the things that I'm doing, and this question came up also at the Planning Commission, is the issue of some of the condition of some of those homes. So one of the things that we're doing through our Community Development Block Grant CDBG program is we're upping our funding for code enforcement so that we can do more code enforcement in that neighborhood, certainly work with the property owners if it's in deterioration. A lot of the issues that we found in that neighborhood were issues where the owners weren't maintaining their homes.
But one reason why they weren't maintaining them is they didn't have any money.
Right.
So code enforcement, that's not going to help unless we want to take it over. My concern was we were going to make that a walkable neighborhood. We were going to, we had a lot of work we wanted to do in that area. And my concern is this is an area that used to be a pretty nice residential area. It has really fallen into decay. And of all the areas, it's more decayed than the one in near Rexbell. Rexbell, and as I remember in our discussion, we said that those homes were in pretty good shape. But I can understand what you're saying, it's near the business corridor. But it seems almost as if we shifted away from this. Even if you don't help with the houses, we thought, and it'd be nice if maybe we could get a CDBG grant there in Ward 1 or something. But the thing is, we thought if we could improve the sidewalks, if we can improve things along that way, it would encourage people to move in that might be able to keep up the homes.
And we do have community development block grant funds that we're going to be taking a look at. That neighborhood should be eligible. So certainly the intent isn't to not try to invest money to improve that neighborhood.
I just wanted to put on the record the dire need of that area, and if they can't get it through this way, as long as we can get it somehow.
Right.
And we've been promised a CDBG grant before, and we never got it. And so I would love to have one in that area and help those people. Then secondly, I had another question. If we redistrict, and we have Charleston down there between Rancho and I-15, I've always had the side of Charleston that's near Scott Jady's. If we redistrict, I would also have the other side. Now, the other side evidently has the old RDA. When is that expiring?
It's due to expire in March of 2031.
The old RDA?
The old RDA.
The 2031. And when would the new RDA expire?
This would be a 30-year agency, so it wouldn't expire till 2042. So it would be
Okay, so we have plenty of years then that we could make a nice... She said she'd be dead, and my mind said it before she said it. I figured I won't be here, so, okay. But that means we can develop the two of them along, because I'd
And
like to...
some of the others are pushing the envelope, believe me.
Put that on the record, Carolyn. But that means that I just want to make sure, if we could make that a medical mile and make it really great, we're going to go for that. That's what we're told, right down from CMO and Mayor. I just wanted to make sure we had the funds available through the RDA for both sides of Charleston.
Councilwoman, you raise a good question that while it does seem like a long ways away, and we're all counting years right now, in order for us to do large projects and issue bonds, they're typically done on a 20-year term. So we actually have less than 20 years. So one of the things that the city, with the upcoming legislature, is going to be looking at is that existing area to try to extend that date to continue the good work that we are doing in that area. So that is something that staff is aggressively working on.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. And then I'd like to turn to Councilman...
You did good.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I covered all the questions so that both our boards are covered. Thank you.
I'm not going to repeat that
That's what you're
line.
saying.
We can all make 20 years. Okay, any comments? Councilman Beers?
Thanks, Mayor. Having not been through this process before, I'm kind of like a description of the mechanics of how this is going to happen. My understanding is that the concept is that we, out of the gate, upon creating this new redevelopment area, would borrow money against the future revenues that it's expected to create and invest it in a manner that will improve the property values, creating the increment, getting the ball rolling. It's a tough thing, this chicken and egg at the beginning. How do you mechanically foresee this getting kicked off?
Good question. One of the things we've done with this upcoming year's budget is we've provided a seed investment from the general fund for this new area of $1 million. It's hard to borrow against future revenue when it's hard to project what that revenue is going to be. One of the things we looked at is making sure that the base for this area, that there's a pretty decent commercial base. So we did include some larger properties to make sure that the base is significant. We only get, as you know, incremental revenue into this new agency and funding. So, for instance, we don't think it's going to grow more than a couple $100,000 annually at most over the initial few years. So that's going to impede our ability to do large projects coming out of the gate. So rather than borrow against, I think we're looking to make a seed investment. And then one of the things I'm tasked with is what is the return on that investment? Thinking of a break-even analysis, if you will. If we invest $1 million, when are we going to get it back as a city? Whether it be through property taxes directly to the agency, through new consolidated tax to the city's general fund, over time we will get paid back. So that's something that we're developing a plan, trying to make those first few investments. As the councilwoman alluded to, there's some really interesting opportunities such as the medical district, the commercial corridor along Charleston. So I think we have some really good opportunities. There's some challenges too. We have some vacant buildings. There's a car dealership on Decatur that's closed. So you're correct in pointing out that it is a chicken and egg, that the idea is that it's a revolving fund, but initially there's not a lot revolving through the fund until we get that growth. So we're looking at what are some catalyst investments we can make to really uplift the area, grow the tax base, and then over time that new development will pay for itself back to the agency.
Will we have that break-even analysis, cash flow forecast? Will we have that kind of information at the time that we have the public meeting? Is it going to be a fully formed business plan, if you will, like I would see in a private investment?
Something close to it. We have a pretty good working draft right now, and certainly it's my intent to provide that to you prior to the public hearing so you can understand the mechanics, and almost like you'd see in a 5 to 10 year cash flow for a private project.
Right.
We have a pretty good working analysis. There are, of course, some assumptions built into that, but you can see kind of what are the drivers for that and what we need. Certainly, we can't depend just on appreciation of existing values. We have to stimulate new development. That's really the driving goal behind this expansion is certainly improve dilapidated properties where we need to, but also get new development as well. And there are some really good opportunities, particularly on North Decatur and Charleston down in and around the medical district.
Why is the water district in this area? Isn't that the large gray parcel at the northeast corner of Valley View and Charleston?
Yeah, I think we included it for planning purposes, just in case there was infrastructure. We're not changing the use, and it is tax exempt. So I think it was just to make sure we had a continuous stretch of commercial land. And again, this is forward-looking. So 15, 20 years out, the water district might not need that facility. So we wanted to be inclusive in our approach. We did a similar thing up and down Meadows Lane where we included some civic assets, not knowing long-term what the use would be over time.
So, like that water district land, which of the 4 criteria for blighted did it meet? You may not know, this may be...
This question came up actually at the Planning Commission, and it came up on a different property. It came up on the Meadows Mall and the adjacent retail where the Cardenia store is.
Every weekend, best produce in town.
And one of the planning commissioners asked that, is that property blighted? And what we're charged with this process is not qualifying every single building as blighted, but rather qualifying the area. So there are some buildings that are shaded in gray on this map that are not necessarily blighted. They don't meet the blight definition, but the area does. An example, an analogy I draw is when we created the agency back in 1986 and we incorporated the older part of downtown, the Golden Nugget was a property that was well maintained. It was not blighted, but most everything around it was. So that was still in the area. The property itself, the building itself wasn't blighted. And I know some property owners who certainly have a lot of pride and sweat equity in maintaining their buildings have been concerned about that. It is laid out in the law. It is a process we have to follow, but we don't have to qualify every building. So we're not, while we are studying the whole area and looking parcel by parcel, building by building, we're not making a determination that every single building in that area is blighted. We're trying to look at a contiguous area, and that's why you see that this map, it is contiguous. It has buildings that don't necessarily meet a definition of blight, but the area does. And so we made sure that we took an inclusive look and tried to make it contiguous, because development tends to happen in a contiguous way. You make certain callous investments, and then you see other private investment around those investments, property by property. So we try to take an inclusive look, and that's why we included properties like the Water District, like the Meadows Mall as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor. I've also not been through this process before, so it's been interesting to watch how it unfolds. But just so we're real clear, approving this today does not approve the final action. That will occur at the special meeting, correct?
That is correct. You're accepting the report from the Planning Commission that I referenced and read into the record. You're not approving today the final blight study, the final plan that Councilman Beers alluded to. How are we going to do this? What's the investment plan? That'll be up for consideration at the future actions.
Thank you. And nor are we approving particular parcels or not. At this point, we're just accepting the report.
You're accepting the report. That's
Thank
correct.
you. Anyone else, comments, questions? Councilwoman Tarkanian, please.
Move to approve after many months, and hopefully what we went through over many months, other wards, as this develops, will be able to move more quickly.
Thank you. There's a motion. Please vote, and please post. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Arndt. And we are moving on to item number 8, citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the redevelopment agency. No subject may be acted upon by the redevelopment agency unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anyone wishing to speak under this portion of the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 9, agency member recognition. Comments made by individual agency members during this portion of the agenda will not be acted upon by the agency unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. Is there any member of the redevelopment agency who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda? Are there any other comments? Hearing none, this redevelopment agency is adjourned. We will start a city council meeting at, I have 7 minutes after 9 at 9:15. Thank you.